And once again, welcome to another exciting edition of the Calvary Coaches Show. I am Richard Holdridge. Every Monday night, we interview a different Calvary Christian head coach or assistant coach. And in this case, we've got the athletic director, and we've moved the show to Tuesday night. But I am excited to bring on the Calvary Christian athletic director and head baseball coach, Coach Steve Smith. Thank you for joining the Calvary Coaches Show.
Thanks for having me, Richard.
All right. Well, we did this in the summer. Thrift Behringer interviewed you for State of the Program. And so what I would like to do is just talk about the Calvary program, starting with the teams in the fall. And what has it been like making that transition into the GIAA?
It's been kind of what we expected. We've had some ups and downs throughout the fall, but what we've seen is a tremendous amount of growth in a lot of our sports teams in the fall. So it's kind of been what we expected. So we're just trying to make adjustments as we go through, just like you would in any other season, whether you're inside of a new league or not. So we've been trying to manage that as we've gone through the first couple months of the school year.
Well, Coach, let's talk about the softball team because Coach Halstead having to make that adjustment, going from the Gaps to the GIAA, that's a quick turnaround because the Gaps plays in the spring. You're playing fall in the GIAA, and you were right out the gate, but not even before school started. We're already having games. He's had his team on the brink of being one of the top teams in the GIAA that could possibly get a playoff berth and go down in South Commons down in Columbus to possibly play in the GIAA championships. But he does have a young team. Just talk about that growth and maturation process of the softball team under Coach Halstead in the first season in the GIAA.
Sure. So, talk about a challenging set of circumstances. Like you mentioned, you go from completing a season in the spring to really getting, maybe a few weeks off before you're starting to have it to turn around and jump right into preparation for the fall season. We also went through the transition of a different coaching staff. So Coach Carson Lloyd and his coaching staff, they complete the spring, and then we made the transition to Coach Halstead and his coaching staff. We've seen kind of what we expected. We had a very tough schedule. Coming into the year, this is something that Carson was really adamant about, was putting together a really tough schedule. And obviously, going into the season, you look at kind of the schedule that we've had to kind of go through, and you can see just kind of the ups and downs throughout the season. But when you look at the first part of the year and then you look at the second half of the year and you see kind of the adjustments that team has made, it's been very impressive. We've been all the way up to number 3 inside of 4A, and then, have kind of fluctuated in that 3, 4, 5, 6, which it looks like that's probably where we're going to kind of finish up, depending on how we finish up with these last few games of the regular season, which 2 of them being region games. So very young team. You've already mentioned that. To have one senior with Cameron and one sophomore with Kendall, and then a lot, basically all 8th and 9th graders, and finding a way to just compete in some of those really tough games has been big for them. And one of the things I've had a couple conversations with some of the girls, but just talking through, when you go through those challenges inside of a season and you play good competition, that really sets you up for the balance of the year. When you play those tough teams, it really helps prepare you for those games that are meaningful the back half of the season.
All right, Coach, let's talk about the volleyball team that had a very smooth transition into the GIAA with Coach Irving. We've had the privilege of live streaming several of the volleyball matches on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Impressive wins over Troup County, getting a win over Brookstone, which is ranked 2nd in the GIAA. I mean, right now, Calvary would be the number 7 team in the playoffs. By the way, the playoffs do start this weekend. When you look at the volleyball team and the way they have competed with not just the GIAA schools, but also GHSA schools, Uh, really, what is the goal and expectations for the volleyball team as they get ready for the playoffs coming up this weekend?
Yeah, I think Coach Mary and her staff have done a great job this year. Um, there's been a lot of inconsistencies. That's what they've been really trying to kind of clean out a little bit. You look at some of the games that we've played and some teams that either we've lost to or have allowed them to kind of stay inside of the games that don't necessarily make a lot of sense with how we then play against maybe a better opponent. So it's really just trying to make sure that the consistency of play just improves as you continue on to keep going through the season. Some of that can even be sometimes inside of a game where there's a set where we will just flat out dominate, and then another set where we just kind of we don't play up to our potential. It's really, I mean, that's one of the things as a coach, you're always trying to, what your team is, you want to be able to replicate that and be that same team over and over and over again. And hopefully as you go through the season, those consistencies continue to keep improving, or inconsistencies that you start to improve on. We're sitting at a place right now, 16 teams make the postseason. We're kind of smack dab right in the middle. When you look at the field, Pacelli seems to be kind of in their own level of where kind of everyone's been at, but everyone else is kind of all grouped in together. And in my opinion, anyone can beat anyone on any night. So even some of the teams that are in that 13, 14, 15, some of those teams can be just as dangerous as some of the teams that are in that 5 through 7 spot. So we're going to have to play well, regardless of who we're going to get in that first round matchup. Because of Hurricane Helen, there's actually been a shift in the postseason where it's going to move to the following week. So we will get an extra week of the regular season for teams that maybe didn't necessarily get a chance to finish their schedule because of some cancellations, and then the postseason will start the following weekend. So we're looking forward to that. We're trying to find ways for us to be able to stay in tune, continue to keep improving. What does our practice look like? Is there anything we can do in there? To be able to, again, make sure that we're clicking on all cylinders going into the postseason.
All right, Coach, let's talk about cross country, as you have co-coaches, Coach Hale and Coach Dunn, do a fantastic job. They've had several meets. How's the cross country season gone, and when is this season expected to end, and what are some of the upcoming events as far as invitationals that'll be on the schedule?
Yeah, so cross country, really last couple of weeks have been really exciting. Not only just at the high school level, but with the middle school and even our junior cross country team that we have. They competed this weekend. We did a good job. Our middle school competed yesterday. We ended up coming in second place. For a high school, several of our players last week in the Muskogee County race did a phenomenal job. DJ Lewis ended up coming in first place in his meet. We had several other guys that ended up having PRs in that race, and then Noah Griffith ended up taking the top spot for our girls. Anna Norm. We've just got a lot of really good. Saul Johnson, a lot of really good runners that just have been improving throughout the cross country year. And so we're looking forward going into as we start to approach the postseason and being able to see what our kids are going to be able to do. But as of right now, DJ Lewis, I think his last 2 races he's won. So he's really starting to kind of come into his own. So we're excited about where cross country is going to kind of finish up for this year.
All right, Coach, cheer. Coach Lloyd does a fantastic job with the cheer squad, which is pretty much dual role because they're at the games for the football team, but they also have the cheer competitions. It's labeled as a fall sport, but we all know cheerleading is year-round. But you got some competitions coming up, and how has Coach Lloyd been able to balance just having the cheer team to have both roles?
Yeah, so not all of our sideline cheerleaders participate in competition, and obviously the same thing. Not all competition participates in sideline. So you definitely have crossover. And so that has to be managed. Coach Lisior handles the sideline portion for football games, and then Coach Megan Lloyd does the competition side. They did a great job this weekend. They competed in the GIA Invitational at George Walton High School, and ended up coming in first place in their division. And same thing with the middle school. So both ended up walking away with first place. Did a phenomenal job there. And as we continue to keep going through the season, there's several other events that we'll compete in. That she's looking to continue on the tradition that we've had the last couple of years, where we've walked away with state championships and even recognition at the national level. So we're excited as we continue to go through the fall and then really even into the winter season as well.
All right, Coach, the final sport we're going to talk about for the fall season is football. Coach Emmanuel Brunson, in his second year, he had the team on the doorsteps of winning a state championship in the Gaps last season. But the transition to the GIAA, especially at the 4A level, has been challenging because you do have championship level teams like a Stratford, a Tatnall, a Brookstone, a Pacelli. But what has you looked at as far as observing how the team has improved and how they'll get better as they're making this transition to the GIAA? And what are some positives that you've taken out of a season that, quite frankly, Coach, I mean, it is disappointing, and they did have the forfeit win over Skipstone Academy, but it's been tough. But what has been your observations about the football team this season?
Yeah, it's been a challenge. I can't say that I'm surprised in terms of the record. We knew coming in this was going to be a very, very challenging season. I think anyone that from the outside looked at it from an unbiased opinion, I think would have said this was going to be a struggle of a year for us. And really for Coach Brunson, he kind of has to look at it as a little bit of a year one for him. There's a very, very big difference in the week to week in playing football inside of Gaps versus playing football inside of GIA. And really no comparison when you take an overall look at the strength of schedule in what we've played this year versus what we played in previous years. So you really can't take the comparison of what we did last year inside of Gaps and then look at the comparison to where we're at now and say, hey, look, there's been a drastic decline. Really what it is we've changed and really probably more than any other sport, it's being magnified. The other sports are able to kind of make some adjustments inside the season. Football, we knew coming in, there's a lack of depth. The change in the competition that you're playing week after week, because again, football is not necessarily just you're playing a team that's better than you, but the physical nature of it compounds as you go through the entire season. So the takeaways, I think we're finding some things out about ourselves. I think it's ultimately for the football program as a whole, I think it's pointing out some glaring things that we need to put some focus and attention to. And this isn't necessarily just this year or even just last year or even in the last couple of seasons. Some things that, again, as you take that next step to play that better competition, it normally puts a mirror in front of you of where you've got to put some attention and focus to. So where are we at? We've got to increase roster size, which has to happen not only from internal but external and middle school and retainment. And I think we've got some things in place to be able to do that. If you look at our middle school program, arguably it's the strongest middle school program in this area right now. Every game that we've played, we've had substantial wins, 20, 30, 40-point wins. But there's a lot of talent there that over the next couple of years, we're going to get an opportunity to see them at the high school level. But it can turn around. It can turn around quickly. You look at Pacelli is a great example of that. Years ago, 0-10, and then started to make that transition. Obviously, they then made the transition into GIA. And within a couple of years, Coach Jones was able to kind of turn that around and put them into a position where, they're a perennial state championship contender. I look at all of our athletic programs, and again, what we wanted, we could have stayed in gaps. The reason why we wanted to go to GIA was really to be able to take our athletic program as a whole, understanding that there were going to be some challenges and there were going to be some people that probably would question why we were doing this, that this is what is in the best interest of our school and our athletic program for the long term, and really for the sustainability and for us to be able to attract student athletes and for us to be able to get kids opportunities at the next level. You have to constantly look for ways to improve. So, yes, is the 1-6 or 1-7, whatever it is we are right now, is that disappointing? Sure. Obviously no one wants to go through these type of seasons, but I think it's also necessary for us to get to where we want to be. I think sometimes you have to go through these seasons, to be able to take that next step to where you need to move to.
I couldn't agree more, Coach. And you're improving the facilities. You've got that rivalry with Brookstone and Pacelli. People are buying into what Coach Brunson is selling. And he's also the strength and conditioning coach. They know that they've got to get more physical in the trenches. First of all, Coach, I want to say I was impressed with Nate Osborne. What a throw to Luke Scoggins on a dime. I mean, we know how tough Brookstone was, but, you got to look at some of those positives that, Coach Brunson is building something special at Calvary, and I'm looking forward to this upcoming game against Pacelli. All right, Coach, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk about what's to come as far as the winter sports and the spring sports. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Calvary Coaches Show here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
Georgia, Alabama. Sports Live will be your go-to for all your favorite high school and collegiate games this fall. From the Carver Tigers to the Columbus Blue Devils, the Harris County Tigers and Northside Patriots, the Glenwood Gators and Calvary Christian Knights, the Pacelli Vikings and Brookstone Cougars, to the Smith Station Panthers and Russell County Warriors, from CVCC Pirates basketball and baseball and every tournament from here to Macon. We are the #1 destination for anything happening in East Alabama and West Central Georgia. Be sure to like and follow us on YouTube and Facebook, and stay tuned for even more amazing ways we will be bringing Georgia Alabama Sports Live to you this upcoming season. We can't wait to come see you next.
And welcome back to the Calvary Coaches Show here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm here with the athletic director and head baseball coach of the Calvary Christian Knights, Coach Steve Smith. Coach, before we get into the winter and spring sports, first of all, we really appreciate the support that Calvary Athletics has given us on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and we definitely support Calvary Athletics, and we thank you for that partnership, Coach.
Absolutely. I think it's an important thing. This is a service that we've desperately needed in this area. You and I have talked about this. Thrift and I have talked about this. It's something there was a huge gap in coverage for high school athletics in this area, and I think you guys have put the spotlight back to where it needs to be, highlighting our student athletes, highlighting our individual schools, and I think you guys do such a great job of being able to spread that across all the schools in the area. I think the different shows that y'all are doing, bringing on the coaches, giving them an opportunity to speak about their passion and their programs, I think is important. I think for families to be able to see this, and obviously for the community as a whole. So to me, it's a really important partnership.
Coach, let's talk about the winter sports. I mean, we know about basketball for the boys and the girls, but is there, like, I think wrestling is a sport. I was looking at the list. Is there a sport that you've seen like some interest in some of the students? Like, I really wish Calvary had this sport. Has there been a sport that's been brought up that you guys have maybe entertained the idea, maybe years down the road, possibly getting?
Sure. I mean, I just got asked again about it the other day, but I get asked from time to time about wrestling, clay shooting or shotgun shooting. We get asked about those from time to time. Swimming gets brought up. We've had a swim team in the past. This year, we're going to have one swimmer for us that will compete under our umbrella. but yeah, I mean, we get asked from time to time. Flag football obviously has become very popular over the last couple of years.
That's a big one.
Yeah, specifically in this area. We didn't want it. We had to make a decision about making that jump for this year, but with the 2-year cycle and us making the move of softball into the fall, a little bit of concern around taking flag football, throwing it also kind of in between the two seasons. But that's definitely something that as we continue to move forward, we will very likely move to expanding to a flag football team as well.
I do want to touch up on flag football, Coach, because some schools do make it work. I mean, as you know, flag football tends to start in the beginning of October, where your softball and volleyball programs are starting to wind down.
Right.
Could you see a scenario where you have multi-sport athletes that play on the volleyball team and the flag football team?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think some schools are able to they're really able to manage that. I think with us in trying to get an understanding of the dynamics, where we even had some athletes that maybe played volleyball and played softball, and this year they had to make a decision of which one they were going to play. I think adding that in there along with flag football and then going into basketball, we wanted to try to avoid that for this year, but it's something that I think that we will definitely explore. Every year when we do our powder puff game and the girls get an opportunity to play flag football, they absolutely love it. We've got some phenomenal female athletes that would make for a really strong flag football team, but we want to make sure that what we're not doing is adding something else, which is then going to deteriorate what we're trying to do in some of our other sports. And again, just with the transition of softball into the fall, we wanted to make sure that the combination of softball, volleyball, going into basketball, that we didn't disrupt that too much by adding another sport this year.
All right, Coach, we'll briefly touch up on these sports that are in the winter and in the spring. We'll start with basketball. The girls' basketball team led by Coach Norton, who's also the headmaster. Not the result they wanted in the gaps last year. They lost to the Kings Academy in overtime, but the future looks bright, especially having a young team. Michaela Reed comes back, and she's going to be a freshman. Just making that transition into the GIAA and the competition that you see in the classification. We know that the defending champions are Pacelli. Brookstone is going to be a tough school, but how is the basketball team for the girls been able to look and see what the outcome could possibly be for this upcoming season, making their first year in the GIAA?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Coach Norton, I think because of the type of basketball mind that he has and the success and the pedigree that he has, I think anytime you have a person like that at the top of your program, I think that's going to bode well for you. And obviously, he's got some very talented girls that are in that program, and really even a lot of interest over the last couple of years of girls that maybe haven't played in the last couple of years that play other sports are now looking at playing basketball this year. So we'll see how that all kind of shakes out. I think the combination of Coach Norton, Coach Grant Smithwick, Coach Lawrence Miller, and Coach Susie Dunn, that is a really, really strong coaching staff that they get a lot of work done in their practices. So, we're only a few weeks away from that beginning to start, where we're going to get a chance to start watching them on a day-to-day basis, getting their work in. So we're really excited. I had a chance to watch some of their summer stuff that they were doing. We've got a couple new players that have come in and get a chance to see how they're going to fit into the mix and try to replace a Lily Miller and some of the other girls that graduated last year. We're looking forward to the girls basketball season.
All right, Coach Jonathan Gordon. Thrift and I know him very well. A very energetic young coach that really could still play at a high level. But he has been just a teacher of the game, brought some young talent up like a TJ Benson, a Tyler Freeman, a Liam Holcutt. And I saw nothing but improvement from the Calvary basketball team last year. And Coach Gordon is not afraid to play anybody. We saw Carver and Spencer on the schedule. Well, the schedule this year kind of looks similar. I think that playing up to the competition and playing GHSA schools is really going to help the team in the long run. But what are some of the growth process that you've seen from Coach Gordon? As you know, part of his team is in the CB Hoops Perfect Practice Fall League right now, so they're getting some workouts. But what are you looking forward to for the basketball team for Coach Gordon in this upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, I really just looking at how does he take what they were able to do last year, where again, a season of a lot of ups and downs, some inconsistencies, some growth with a really young team, some growth with a young first year coach, and how does he take what he did last year and really build upon that as he moves into his second season? He's got some really good parts that came in this year that I think are going to be really going to complement what they were able to do last year. But really, the whole thing for him is going to be building on what they did last year, because in that second year, you really want to take that next step and really be able to try to compete, at a high level. I think the way that he sets up the schedule, especially the last year, and then moving into this year, same thing as we talked about earlier on and with softball, is when you set up a schedule like that, the competition it rises to your level of play. Specifically, what you're trying to do is rise the level of play, so this way, the back half of the season, we've been tested. We can continue to keep moving on, and you're improving from day to day. And really, I mean, my philosophy has always been you want to play a tougher non-region schedule than your region, and so this way, when you get into those games that really matter, you've already been battle tested, and then obviously specifically once you get into the postseason. So I'm looking, just like we are with the girls, we're looking for Coach Gordon to take a big step this year and really be able to compete well inside of GIA and really make a run at the region and hopefully make a strong run at the state level as well.
All right, Coach, we're going to briefly touch up on the boys and girls soccer team. Who are the coaches? What are some of the expectations this upcoming season? And then just briefly talk about just making that transition to the GIAA for the soccer programs.
Yeah, so real quick, I just want to also touch on our archery team. Archery has been one of our, to be honest, one of the prior to baseball winning the 6 championships, archery had been the program that had won several state championships. They're moving into GIA, and really they're probably one of the top archery teams inside of GIA as well. So Coach Amber Wosner does a great job with them. There's a lot of participation, so we're looking forward to seeing how she can continue to maintain that same level of success in a new league. Soccer program, Coach Matt Orr is the director for both the boys and girls. So he's the director over both. He's the head coach for the boys. We have been leading up to what these next couple of years for soccer will be. So everything that he has poured into the boys program over the last few years has really been kind of geared up to the talent level that we've got in these next couple of years. A lot of those guys are sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So we really expect. Last year was really, in my opinion, and I mentioned this to y'all before, it really was a disappointment. And it's really hard to say that when you have the type of season he had during the regular season and then ended up getting upset in the postseason. But it really was. I think their goals and what they had set out for was back-to-back state championships last year, and especially being in the last year of gaps. And so I think there's a hunger and a fire inside of that coaching staff and those boys to come back and be able to prove themselves in a new league. So I really do expect them to have one of the more seamless transitions in the GIAA. I think they're going to have a strong year. And then with the girls, same thing. We lose some really talented girls from last year. But we've got a lot of high-level young athletes for the girls soccer team that really, some of them are game changers. When they're on the field, they're the soccer player on the field. So that's going to give us an opportunity this year to hopefully build off of them making it to deep into the postseason run last year in a new league as well. So soccer overall, we're really looking forward to that in the spring.
All right, Coach, before we get to baseball, because we're going to save baseball for last, because you are the head baseball coach. If we got a lot to talk about, track and field and tennis, who are the coaches and what's the season looking like? And where do you play? Do you play for tennis at Cooper Creek Park? And I know track, You can pretty much run anywhere near the football field. But what are some of the things looking forward to as far as track and field and tennis?
So with tennis, last year was our first year bringing that sport back. Kim Jeffers is our varsity head coach. She did a phenomenal job last year. Again, we had an interest meeting, I don't know, November or December last year, and we had used a classroom and completely packed out the classroom. And I was trying to get an idea, like, is this indicative of how many people are going to want to participate? So for a first-year program to have almost 40 kids participate in it, Finley Jeffers is a outstanding tennis player that really has an extremely bright future beyond high school. But our tennis program, we really think they're going to take another step this year and be able to have a different level of success, even just from the individual side and singles, but hopefully as a team standpoint. For track and field, we're in the process of looking for a new coach. But as you said, typically one of the challenges with cross country and tennis, cross country, we don't have the ability to practice we don't have a track obviously on our campus, and then same thing with tennis. And so that creates some additional challenges, for our student athletes, for our coaches, but we're looking forward to the spring season for both track and field and for tennis as well.
All right, Coach. Baseball, 6 straight championships in the gaps. Would have been 7 if it wasn't for COVID. I honestly think you would have won it in 2020. Thrift and I have been a privilege to call 2 of the last 6 baseball championships. And I got to be honest with you, Coach, losing a player like Bailey Thorne, I mean, he's going to be playing in the majors. I thought he was going to get drafted by a major league team. I know he's off at college, but you've brought some talented players through your program, and you've had pedigree, Coach, not only being the manager of the Columbus Chattahoochee for 3 seasons, but also just bringing up talented baseball players through your organization. They're all on the plaques. There's a lot of support, and you're not afraid to play anybody. You'll play a GHSA school, a 7A school. It doesn't matter. I actually think out of all the teams that are making that transition from the gaps to the GIAA, Coach, I feel that this team is ready for the GIAA competition, but it is going to be tough. Brookstone is the defending GIAA champions, but how excited is just the student body and everybody in the Calvary family seeing baseball making their way to the GIAA?
Yeah, I mean, I would say years ago this was something that was high on the priority for us, because we didn't get any opportunity to play a lot of the strong teams outside of our region schedule. And over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been able to really push that schedule to where we play one of the more competitive schedules in this entire area. But I think what it's going to do for us, obviously, it takes the natural rivalry of Pacelli and Brookstone, and it magnifies it because now it's for a region title. You play each other 3 times, all within the same week. And so I think what it's going to do, because really, and I'll be honest with you, baseball in this area, I think what we have done, and I'm not taking credit for this, but I think what Calvary has done, I think we've helped to raise the level of play and expectations inside the area over maybe the last 5 to 7 years. And so there are teams that want to play us and that want to beat us, because again, we've maybe had some success that people maybe question because of the league that we're in. We'll get an opportunity this year to be able to showcase what our program is all about. We've been very consistent for the last, this will be my 12th year. So really for the last 11 years, we've been very, very consistent. We're one of the, I think only one of 2 or 3 teams in the entire state of Georgia that's won 24 or more games consecutively for 8 straight years. We're going to put that to the test this year, because our region schedule is tough. And as I mentioned earlier, I feel like my job is to make our non-region schedule tougher than our region schedule. So how do you do that when you're playing a Brookstone and a Pacelli and a Strong Rock and Westfield? Well, you've got to go play some other teams. So first our opening day, we play at 12 o'clock against Lakeside Academy, who has absolutely loaded up this year and defending champs. But they are going to look completely different from what they looked like last year, just in terms of the kids that have come in this year and are going to be over there. That evening, we're going to then go over to Central High School and play them at 7 p.m. And then rolling into the following week, we play Northside High School on a Tuesday. And then we roll into Border Wars. We would play Russell County, Glenwood, Holtville, which is a 5 or 6A in Alabama, and Pike Road, which is a 6A. And then we go back to Lakeside. That's our first 8 games. And again, so people may look at what we're doing in terms of a schedule. We're going back to IMG. I personally have always said I don't ever shoot for a certain number of wins. I'm always trying to get the most out of our guys and put ourselves in a position to be challenged. We're going to be challenged inside the region more than we've ever been challenged in my 12 years because of the competition that is there. Brookstone, really strong team from last year, beat us. Pacelli, really strong team from last year, beat us. But what I will say when people question our ability to go to GIA, leading up into last year, I think we were 15-2 against GIA teams in the previous, couple of years. So I'm not looking at it and saying, hey, we're concerned about it. I look at it and say, I welcome the challenge. When you have 6 straight state championships, you want to try to put it back out there and try to defend that in a 7th year in a completely new league. And for us to do that, we're going to have to be better than we were last year. And that's my opinion. I think last year at 27-8, we left 5 to 6 games on the table. Because again, I think in terms of where we were at and what our offense had the potential to do, the defense and the pitching of what we struggled with the consistency, we probably should have been a 32-win team last year. And we dropped some games that we just shouldn't have lost. This year, we've got to really our concern is the pitching depth. I think we're going to score runs, and I think our defense has a chance to be just as good as we were last year. I think the top of our pitching rotation, I think, has a chance to be really good, but it's going to be the depth and some of the guys that haven't necessarily had to pitch in some of those big moments. They're going to get those opportunities this year. And really, we only return 2 guys that had, really anything over, I think, 15 innings, from last year with Tommy Irving and Cam Houston. Everybody else kind of pitched, at the JV level or maybe threw an inning here or there. So we've got our work cut out for us. That's why we have been in the weight room, since June. And that's why these guys, they take their off-season work extremely serious. We don't have to always put out there what it is that they're doing, but these guys work hard and they put in the work on their own. And then obviously with what we do as a team in the weight room, they really push themselves hard.
Well, Coach, that Georgia Alabama Sports Live is going to try to live stream as many Calvary baseball games as possible. And correct me if I'm wrong, you mentioned you're playing Central
High School. This is the first year. Yeah.
Wow.
So one of the things that was big for GIA is their affiliation membership with National Federation of High School Sports. They had it at one point, and then for a period of time did not have it. They've been able to get that back, and what that's done is that's allowed us to play the Alabama high school teams this year. So Glenwood, who we were not going to be able to play this year, we will be able to play them. That's where we play in Border Wars, and that's how we're going to get an opportunity to play Pike Road, Holtville, and Russell County in that smaller Border Wars. But then also it opens up the opportunity to play Central High School and Lee Scott and other schools too. So and hopefully one day maybe Smith Station and Auburn, and being able to kind of look down that road that we've not been able to have that opportunity in the past.
Well, we would love to see it, Coach, and we're excited about next season, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing you at Baseball Media Days. We will definitely have it again on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Coach, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule just to talk about the state of the program of Calvary Athletics. We enjoy doing these Calvary coaches shows. Looking forward to talking to more of your coaches just throughout the week. And thank you so much just for stopping by, Coach.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Richard.
All right, that is the athletic director and head baseball coach of the Calvary Christian Knights, Coach Steve Smith. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching another edition of the Calvary Coaches Show. Hope you have a great night. And